Hello everyone, I'm Paul McGuire Grimes. Anyone that knows me can probably attest to my love of Scream. And with the news of the Scream 5 in the works, I wanted to look back on one of my favorite horror franchises. This is Paul's trip to the movies, and for the final part in my Scream retrospective, I go back to where it all began. Woodsboro, my childhood living room, and a used VHS copy of Scream. Now, my first foray into the world of Ghostface and his many victims was not sitting in a dark theater with an audience screaming their faces off. No, I was 13 at the time, and my parents still wouldn't let me see R-rated movies in the theaters, and there was no way that they were going to let me actually go to the theater to watch a bunch of teens get butchered. In case you're still wondering, yes, I still hold it against them. No, instead, my first watch was at home once Scream finally hit VHS. Now, back in those days, you couldn't buy the VHS copy until months after it was released so that video stores could make a profit off of rentals. Now, it's really sad that kids these days don't understand what I'm talking about. Now, I'm only slightly getting off track, but I wanted to showcase how much time had passed. I mean, it was like months before I could see it. By now, this point, I was at an age where I could buy the previously viewed VHS copy from Blockbuster Video and then bask in the glory at home. Now, if I were to guess, it would have been probably summer or fall 1997, as I legitimately saw Scream 2 during its theatrical run, which happened December 12th, 1997. It was late that night when my sister and I popped it into the VCR after the folks had gone to bed. Now, somehow, I didn't really know any of the spoilers about the movie despite the time that had passed since its theatrical release, which was December 1996. Now, this was long before the days of Facebook and Twitter, which allowed spoilers that, very next night or that next day. But there I was, glued to the screen as Drew Barrymore opened the film as Casey Becker answering a mysterious phone call. It became a game of scary movie trivia as she raced around the house hiding from the killer, aka Ghostface. This sequence would become iconic for killing off the film's biggest star within the first 10 minutes. Wes Craven really crafted a pulsating and legitimately scary opening that treated Barrymore like a Hitchcock blonde akin to Janet Leigh in Psycho. It's the first of many references to that film. I believe Barrymore was thought of for the role of Sydney, the main role of Sydney, but thought it would be better to play Casey to then throw off the audience. The news of Casey's death, along with her boyfriend Steve, rocks Woodsboro High. It comes on the 1-year anniversary of the death of Maureen Prescott, whose daughter Sydney is one of Casey's classmates. Sydney's on high alert, wondering if she's the next target. The role of Sydney Prescott went to Neve Campbell, who was best known at the time for the TV show Party of Five. Her friends all rally around her, including Bestie Tatum, played by Rose McGowan, boyfriend Billy, played by Johnny Depp lookalike Skeet Ulrich. A little side trivia is that Johnny Depp starred in Wes Craven's Nightmare on Elm Street. We also meet Courtney Cox's tabloid journalist Gail Weathers, David Arquette as Tatum's brother Dewey, and geeky friend Randy, played by Jamie Kennedy. Oh, and comedic relief, Billy's best friend Stu, played by Matthew Lillard. Yes, you heard me right on that. Part of Scream's success was Kevin Williamson's witty script. Now, you don't often see humor play a role in a horror film, as too oftentimes you're laughing at the bad acting or cheesy dialogue. Williamson wrote copious references to other horror movies for Randy to spout off, while Tatum and Stu were given all the great one-liners like, "My mom and dad are going to be so mad at me." Now, on top of this, you had a master of horror like Wes Craven who could balance the legitimate shock value of the kills next to the comedy. Craven actually makes a cameo in the film as Fred the janitor as he's donning a Freddy Krueger-like sweater. Now, I've mentioned some of the references to other scary movies, but a lot of Scream's success is really owed to John Carpenter's Halloween, which plays in the background during the party sequence. Randy pauses that movie to then dole out the rules for surviving a horror movie. You can then hear Jamie Lee Curtis's screams and the classic John Carpenter score during pivotal moments of Scream.
That's why she always outsmarted the killer in the big chase scene at the end. Only virgins can do that. Don't you know the rules? What rules? You don't... Jesus Christ, you don't know the rules?
Have an aneurysm, why don't you?
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie. For instance, number 1, you can never have sex. No. Big no-no! Big no!
I'm a dead man.
Keep him in popcorn. Sex equals death, okay? Number 2, you can never drink or do drugs. No, the sin factor. It's a sin. It's an extension of number 1. And number 3, never, ever, ever, under any circumstances say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back.
I'm getting another beer. You want one?
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back.
You see, you push the laws and you end up dead.
Scream would go on to rock the horror genre. It opened December 20th, 1996, and while its opening weekend box office receipts were a little timid, word of mouth spread like wildfire and really made this a huge movie. The horror genre was dying out at the time thanks to some crappy sequels, Halloween 6, and a lack of imagination for original scary stories. Scream reignited and continued to scare audiences, and Kevin Williamson wrote that into Scream 4, so just look to see how far the horror genre went from 1996 to 2011. Wes Craven continued to showcase his expertise at scaring audiences, and Kevin Williamson became a sought-after screenwriter. He would go on to write Scream 2 and Scream 4, I Know What You Did Last Summer, The Faculty, and TV shows like Dawson's Creek and The Vampire Diaries. Now, my love of Scream has never diminished. I watch it every October as I carve pumpkins, and yes, I have since seen it on the big screen thanks to a movie party at the Alamo Drafthouse. It came with some really fun props, and I tried not to quote the whole movie. Now, what was really crazy was to see how many small details I was picking up on for the first time now that it was blown up on such a big screen. Now, my love of the film also extended to the stage when I got to participate in Scream, a drinking game, the Shadow Horse Theater. It involved a bunch of actors like myself reading from the script and getting sloshed when certain events, phrases, or kills happened. I played Randy, Principal Himbry, Kenny the cameraman, and others. Scream continues to play a relevant part of the horror genre, and I, for one, am pretty excited about the news of a Scream 5. You can call it a relaunch or a reboot, revival, whatever, but for now we know that Courtney Cox and David Arquette are officially signed on for it and are attached, with Kevin Williamson producing the movie. It's going to be directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillette, whose film Ready or Not was an exciting and really fresh spin on a scary game of hide and seek. Don't forget to click subscribe on my YouTube channel for my other reviews of the other Scream movies. Next to Halloween, like I mentioned, it's one of my favorite horror franchises of all time. If you're a Scream fan, I'd love to hear from you. What are some of your favorite moments, some of your favorite characters? Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Paul's Movie Trip. I'd love to hear from you. And then go to my website, paulstriptomovies.com, for even more, as well as a retrospective on the Halloween franchise. Thank you so much for taking a look at my Scream, look back at Scream. It's been quite fun talking about all 4 movies. Thanks so much for watching. This is Paul's Trip to the Movies.